Welcome into Warchant TV. This is Ira Schofield from Doak Campbell Stadium. Corey Clark from, again, still in his bunker. He's still in his bunker. But now that Florida State has knocked off the number 5 team in the country, North Carolina, 31-28. We're letting him out, people. We're letting him back out. He's going to be released to civilization after Florida State holds on for really one of the craziest wins. I don't even know what to say. I mean, that game it was like a mini series. I mean, there were so many different plots. If you had asked me what happened in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third, or the fourth, it was like a different story every time. But at the end of the day, Florida State holds on for the 31-28 win. Florida State's first win over a top 5 team since 2014 when they beat Notre Dame. Just a huge win for Florida State, even though it was a white knuckler down the stretch.
Yeah, you're right. It was a roller coaster, and there's a lot to not like about how the game ended, but you can't really pick a whole lot of nits when you just beat a top 5 team. And we can say it's North Carolina. They were, it's a weird season. They're probably not the 5th best team in the country. Well, all right, whatever. Florida State hadn't beaten anyone from FBS, period, in their last 7 games against FBS schools. Or 6 games anyway. So for them to do that, to not get blown off the field, but to actually be on the verge of blowing someone else off the field was a really positive step. I'm not going to talk about Dante Lucas right now. I'm not going to do it. But what they did the whole first half and then the first drive of the second half, again, that's not what you see this team ever do. Like, I think the game was almost over when they were at the 3-yard line after the Webb run. It didn't happen. But then part of me was like, you know what? Maybe that's kind of what this program needed. Like, obviously, you want to beat everybody 55-10, but that's not going to happen. But for them to find a way to win after seemingly blowing it, like it looked I don't think anybody in the stadium, anybody in that press box, anybody in this kitchen thought that Florida State was going to win that game when North Carolina got the ball back. None. The only thing I was thinking is maybe they're going to score so quickly that Florida State will have time to go down and have a Hail Mary shot with a quarterback that we didn't know he could throw.
I was going to say, except your quarterback's got one bad wing.
And so people can look at, okay, the one kid dropped a pass that could have been a touchdown. Then there were 2 other drops right after that. And it's like, okay, that's fair. But number one, those throws had to be let go quickly because he was getting pressured. And, man, that running back for Carolina made a ridiculous catch on the drive before. And the other Carolina receiver that dropped the touchdown pass made a ridiculous catch. And they also made another ridiculous catch in that drive. So it was like the football gods kind of evened it out a little bit. And you can say, okay, yeah, was it Miko Dotson was holding him as he was trying to catch that ball? Number one, it still hit him in the hands. He should have caught it. But also, you had 2 running backs get tackled 6 yards out of bounds without a penalty being called. So North Carolina doesn't get any of the sympathy for a missed call. If they call the penalty when Corbin gets knocked out of bounds on that first drive of the second drive of the second half after the goal line stand on 4th down, that game might have not come. The game probably wouldn't have come down to that last play anyway, or the last drive anyway. Just an unbelievably big win for this program. They're not playing for a national championship this year, quite obviously, but to beat a good team, to show like that you could jump on a team really early and really rattle them, and then hold off the end. I thought both of those were good signs. The stuff in the middle, not great, but it didn't help that your quarterback got hurt.
Well, and the point you made, when you said maybe they needed to win the game this way, I was thinking back to the Jacksonville State game. Mike Norvell saying that maybe they needed to win that game that way, because I agree with you. I thought the same thing, because it's one thing to make a lot of plays and to get a lead, but then to realize that they don't know how to win. That's what showed up in everything that's been hurting Florida State football for the last several years. The silly penalties, the just egregious mistakes. We'll go to Dante Lucas now. To your point, it's 31-7 at halftime, and Florida State's getting the ball to start the second half. They go right down the field. LaDamian Webb has like a 54-yard run. They get down to the 3-yard line. North Carolina is done. If Florida State punches it in there, the game, it's a wrap. Instead, on second down, Dante Lucas gets baited into a shoving match. 15-yard personal foul. Ryan Fitzgerald misses the field goal, his one of 2 misses. And so they don't extend the lead. North Carolina comes down, they score and get a 2-point conversion. And all of a sudden they're back in the game. And I think there were so many instances of that where if they could have just gotten off the field, you got a face mask on a 3rd down stop. Yeah. They just couldn't make the winning plays to just knock North Carolina out. but they still got the win. I mean, that's the great thing. What we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years is they make those mistakes and they lose the game. Here's one where they actually won the game.
And I was actually watching it with my son Brady, who some of you might have heard of before. And I was telling him, man, I'm not writing another story about a moral victory. I'm not doing it. This is a blown win if they do this, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I've been madder at a Florida State football player in the last decade than I was at Dante Lucas right there. It just makes no sense. It's such a losing play. Like, that guy he's 180 pounds. Dante Lucas could pick him up, twirl him around, and throw him into the stands if he wanted to. He's no threat to you physically. Why even do that? Why do that? It's such I don't even want to call it selfish. I mean, it's not like he got a lot of joy out of slapping somebody's helmet. But if he doesn't do that, it's a rout. He did do that. And then you had Brownlee with the personal foul and the face mask, which it's just a bad play. It's a great call about Fuller and a bad play. You see all these things stack up, and you're like, okay, this is Dotson clearly interfering with a guy down the sideline. These are what bad teams do to lose football games. They start to feel the pressure, and then they melt down in the moments. But then the last drive that Florida State had, where I think Travis really got hurt, that's a big time. That dude made a couple big time runs. He did what he had to do. They made plays. Travis especially made plays when he had to make plays. Webb is big time. I don't know what else to say. The guy can play. He needs to get more carries. I thought Norvell, and again, I'm not gonna dissect all the bad decisions. There were a lot of really good ones. But the 3rd and 3, the Wildcat, you call timeout there with 1 second left, and then get your wits about you to figure out what you want to do. They got a false start because the play clock was running down. If you call a timeout with 1 or 2 on the play clock, you could still do Wildcat with Corbin with 3rd and 3. He probably gets it. And if he doesn't, you're going to be able to go for it on 4th down. But instead, they got the false start because that's what Florida State does. They did that on another drive. I think their last drive, actually, they got a false start coming off a kickoff. You got to cut that out, man. Atkins can really coach. And Norvell, I think, can really coach. But some of that's still in them somewhere. Some of that's still in these players to do stuff like that.
Well,
I was going to say real quick, the positive, though, they did make those plays. Jordan Travis did make big-time plays. It didn't end up with any points because the kicker missed the field goal in the false start. But the defense, too, on those last drives, especially the last one, they made some impact plays on the line of scrimmage. A sack, a tackle for loss. They put North Carolina in bad position. Yeah,
and Jordan Travis's runs, those 3rd down runs were amazing. I mean, that was just that kid to go through what he's gone through physically. He has changed this entire football program. I mean, literally, he is because he's not. I mean, he's not the greatest passer in the world, but he's gutsy. I mean, I can't remember, somebody used the word, I don't know if it's Aslan in the post-game press conference. He's gutsy, and he makes winning plays, and he does the way he handles himself on the sideline. Like one timeout, timeout when the defense was on the field, Jordan was over there with the offensive lineman, and he's on a knee talking to the offensive lineman. Now, I literally don't remember the last time I've seen a Florida State quarterback do that. It's a little thing, but it's just he knows how to manage a team. Like, he knows how to lead a football team, and you see that. But defensively, look, I mean, we're all going to write stories about how the defense responded. They also gave up like 560 yards. North Carolina moved the football, especially that whole second half. But the way they got after the quarterback, I think that was the most impressive thing to me. The defensive line, we have been burying them all season. Since the first quarter of the Georgia Tech game, all of us in the media, all the fans have just been burying that defensive line.
With good reason, by the way.
I'm not saying that we weren't. We had plenty of reason to do it. But, man, they were relentless today. And Norvell talked about it in the postgame. When he talked about it, they were just on fumes at the end. It was fumes and heart. And they kept getting after. I give Sam Howell a ton of credit, man. He threw 375 yards. He got harassed on probably 75% of his snaps.
And he made some big-time throws. Like, I think that's – if you look at what North Carolina did in the second half, other than some busts you had in the middle of the field, I thought they made them earn it. Like, those guys just made some incredible plays. They're good players, man. Like, Akeem Dent's right there. The guy just makes a really good throw, and that's a big dude. You'd like Akeem Dent to, like, maybe make a play there, but that's a really big-time play and a big-time throw. The 2 catches down the sidelines, what are you going to do? I mean, at least you made it hard for them. They weren't – and going back to the defense, getting the 2-point conversion stop was huge. They got pressure. I think it was J-Rob and Marvin Wilson both were chasing Howell. And then they got a stop after the Travis interception. That was probably looking back at it, other than the last drive, those were probably the two biggest drives of the game for the defense. And they stepped up after the Travis interception, and then they stepped up after the 3-and-out when North Carolina got the ball back with 2.5 minutes left. I mean, it's not like North Carolina was knocking at the door at the 12 when they dropped 3 straight passes. I just thought Florida State's defense, when it mattered, they were relentless up front. And that's with Corey Durden being knocked out of the game with a targeting. And that's with Fabian Lovett not even being there. And Dennis Briggs being in the rotation, who hadn't played, I guess, in 6 weeks. I didn't even know. I mean, that's the craziest thing of the night. It's like, oh, Dennis Briggs has opted back in. And, now he's essentially a starter.
He played. He must have played 30 more snaps. I figured.
Surprised we didn't see DJ Matthews returning punts.
He could have come and dressed out at halftime. Yeah. Josh Kando, if you get a chance to watch the post-game interviews, people, watch Josh Kando's interview with Janoris Robinson. We asked him about Dennis Briggs opting back in. Mike Norvell talked about it, explained the whole process behind the scenes over the last few weeks. But Josh Kando said they were at COVID testing one day this week, and there's Dennis Briggs. And he's like, hey, what are you doing, man? And he's like, I'm back on the team. And, basically within a week, he's learned enough to be out there and play. And it was huge because, like you said, Corey Durden goes out. They already were without Fabian Lovett. True Thompson didn't dress out either. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like you could say, North Carolina dropped a couple passes. The adversity Florida State fought through in this game was really remarkable. They had so many guys out of action. We don't know what for, if it's injuries, if it's COVID or what. But, I mean, they had like 10 guys on the sideline for this game. They were playing, Travis Jay came back from injury, so this is his first game in a few weeks. I mean, they had a lot of guys playing. You didn't have Tamari and Terry. Jordan Young was playing a ton of snaps. I mean, it's just a really, just a gutsy performance. But where does it go from here? I guess that's what we'll kind of wrap up with. I mean, just like we said, they had to learn how to win this game, which, was a struggle at times, but there's plenty of learning opportunities. How do they process this and move forward, do you feel like? I mean, from what we've seen, do you feel like they're going to handle this the right way? Because if you go and lose at Louisville next week, this doesn't really go very far.
Yeah, I mean, but I think what it does for FSU fans is, as long as the season doesn't fall off a cliff, you've got a marquee win from a coach in his 5th game after getting housed by Miami 3 weeks ago, like not even competing with that program. And after losing to Georgia Tech, who we saw, oh boy, that program. If Jordan Travis starts the season, Florida State's 3-2 right now, and maybe, for all I know, ranked after this week. But they didn't have Jordan Travis to start the season, and they lost to Georgia Tech, and they got housed by Miami, and then they were in a dogfight with Jacksonville State. What, second quarter?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like you said, Jordan Travis has changed everything. The offense moves the ball. You got to hope he's healthy. That's always going to be a concern with a running quarterback that's not Tebow-esque, who's not 245 pounds. But he's changed the offense. There's always confidence when he's on the field. Not maybe the last couple drives because you knew he was hurt. But when it's 3rd and 4, you trust that kid can get you a first down. You just do. That's what winners do. Moving forward, though, really, I don't know what to expect moving forward. I think they can get to 5 or 6 wins. I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. There's a bunch of wins. There's a bunch of teams on that schedule they can beat. They'll probably lose a game that will make you shake your head. You might be upset by it, and that depends on injuries and COVID and who's available and all that. But I do think what Florida State fans have to be so excited about, no matter how the season ends, is where this team was 3 weeks ago in the jump it has made in 3 weeks to, okay, what's it going to look like in 3 years? Is this going to be a top 10 program in 2 or 3 years? If they can make that kind of exponential jump in 3 weeks, this team has a ton of work still. Like you said, they give up 580 yards or whatever it was. But they compete. They don't give up. They made plays. They got guys that are exciting. You wonder, is Jordan Travis just the quarterback now? If he's healthy, he's the guy, right?
Yeah, there's no question. It's his team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Jordan. If he's healthy, I think it's Jordan Travis's football team. The thing, talking about that Miami game, and I asked a couple of players in Norvell that question is, they lost to Georgia Tech in the opener, which you could say, okay, maybe you just got off on the wrong foot. But then you get buried by your arch rival in the second game under a new head coach and a new coaching staff. I'll be honest, man, I was a little surprised that they stayed bought in and to be able to do this.
Yeah.
That's impressive. The other thing about Mike Norvell that I think we saw last week, and we certainly saw in this game, is that dude he's on the attack, man. Like he's sending a message to these players. The way they came after the punts early in the game, the special teams was huge.
Yeah.
Got a couple blocked punts. The way he's calling timeouts on defense, it might have backfired him a little bit before halftime, but then they got the ball right back and went on the attack and scored again before halftime. I mean, that his personality is interesting, and I think it might be what this team needs for a team that's been wounded over the last few years.
Yeah, and I thought they were maybe a lot. They were a lot passive in the second half on offense, but I also think it just didn't work out. Like if Keyshawn, they got a possession at the 2, and then if Keyshawn Helton makes that catch, I think they're off and running again, and they have all the momentum because of the 4th down stop. Your offensive guard slapped a kid to take you out of touchdown range. And then they had a couple of other things that just went wrong. But he was milking the clock, which I think is smart to do when you know that the defense is gassed. And I think he was coaching to his defense a little bit because North Carolina ran 45 plays in the first half. Only 7 points, but ran 45 plays. Yeah, but those timeouts were interesting because I was tweeting about it. I'm like, what is he doing? Why is he doing this? And then they give up the touchdown with 1:09 left after he called 3 timeouts on defense to try to get the ball back and left them time to go score. And then they go score in 4 plays to go back up by 24 points. Yeah, that's a message, just like the messages for calling timeouts at the end of the Notre Dame game. And so moving forward, again, I think at most you're looking at, Clemson, maybe they just will not play that game. But Clemson's coming, and that's going to be rough. All these other games, Louisville, Virginia, Duke, NC State, who just lost their quarterback, they're all now imminently winnable. It does not mean you will win them all because your defense is still your defense. But if Jordan Travis is healthy, I think you feel like you can win them all. And he gives you a chance. And that's something you hadn't had in a long time here. It's still a goofy season, and it's one win. But the last 2 wins this program had, again, it's Alabama State and Jacksonville State. Now you just went and beat the top 5 team in the country, which you hadn't done since Notre Dame in 2014. Man, that's a top 5 team. I mean, that's a tremendous sign moving forward. I think they're going to be some head shaking games maybe or efforts, but I think overall at the end of this year, if it keeps improving like this, Florida State fans will be all on board with what this guy's doing and his staff.
Well, check out warchant.com for continuing coverage. We'll have all the post-game interviews. Aslan's already got them up on the website, the players and Mike Norvell. Really good stuff from all of them after the game. And then also, Corey will have a column. We'll have the 3-2-1 coming. Much more coming over the next 24 to 48 hours. And then we'll start off a new week with Louisville. And Corey Corey's going to be in attendance at the Louisville game.
Hello, man. I was gonna say, like, I feel like we don't want to jinx it now. Like, you're on a roll.
You are going to Louisville, baby.
All right, I'll be there.
Here you come.
I'll be there.
Churchill Downs. Save a spot for Corey. He's going.
Yeah, I'll watch it on simulcast on my computer. In my hotel room.
For Corey Clark and Aslan, this is Ira checking out of Warchant.com. Florida State wins a 31-28 victory over number 5 North Carolina.